Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Phantom Perspectives. I apologize that Haley and Tim aren't here. They were supposed to be here, but Haley kind of has a bit of a family emergency that she had to attend to. It's kind of last minute. As such, we rescheduled for next week. I'm sorry. We were gonna sorry. I really wanted them to be here for this specific episode because of stuff Tim talked about and because of what stuff Tim talked about in the Mystery Meat vlog, but these things happen, so unfortunately we kind of have to work around it. They are going to be back for next week, or at least Haley will be, so for now I'm just going to be tackling this episode by myself, so yeah, apologies for anyone who was looking forward to seeing them, but anyway. Today we're going to be discussing episode 28 of Danny Phantom, The Ultimate Enemy, and I know it's technically listed as episode 28 and 29, even the DVD says it's a double episode, but it's put on there as one part. I'm counting it as episode 28 only, so don't like it. Don't like it. It's my blog, so okay, that sounds rude, but bottom line, that's what I'm going to be doing with it. But anyway, before I actually start talking about the episode, though, I want to talk about the build up for this episode, because that's kind of a big reason why this episode is remembered as it is. Like, The Ultimate Enemy was another hour-long special that was aired on Nickelodeon alongside Rainstorm and the two other ones whose names I don't remember. But in this case, however, the driving force for The Ultimate Enemy is that you didn't know who the Ultimate Enemy was. Like, as the name implies, the episode was called The Ultimate Enemy, but in all the advertising for the episode, they never showed the Ultimate Enemy. At best, all you got was like a leg or a silhouette or something. As such, the build up to the Ultimate Enemy and his identity was kind of part of the reason why this episode was part of the reason why this episode was built up for so long, and because they kept building up the mystery. Like they showed a lot of stuff from the episode, action scenes, Danny fighting someone, other ghosts, and so forth. They showed everything, but who the bad guy was. They kept everything in mystery. Kept everything in mystery. They even did all these little things where you could go online, make your own Ultimate Enemy, and so forth. But the idea was that they kept the Ultimate Enemy's identity a secret up until the episode aired, so that the reveal would just be that much worth it. As such, the build up kind of feeds into part of why this episode is kind of as big as it is. As such, and even when the episode starts, they don't reveal it right away although they do give some hints. Again, they do give hints even in the previews, as it seemed to involve time travel, or involved a character called Clockwork, who was the master of time. There was one ghost that's saying, to save the future, Danny Phantom must perish. Like, they do drop clues, but they never outright say who it is until the episode's actually aired. So, as such, when this episode actually does begin, it actually starts out in the future. Specifically 10 years in the future from when the show takes place, and it does not look good, as the entire world seems to be in ruins. Everything is destroyed. There are thunderstorms about. Everyone seems to be dead. The only place that seems to be prospering is Amity Park, which is thriving, has a futuristic city, and is covered by a ghost shield, and is covered by a ghost shield, and seems to be protected by Valerie, who we see is now grown up, and still seems to be keeping up with her ghost hunting, now actively working with her dad. As such, when we tune in this episode, she's checking on one of the towers for the ghost shield covering Amity Park to make sure everything's working well. But when she calls her dad to let him know everything's working fine, the call is intercepted by the Ultimate Enemy, as we'll call him. As such, the instant she sees him, Valerie gets angry and says, "What?" It's like, "I don't care how powerful you are, you're not gonna be able to break through this. You can never break through this shield." And the Ultimate Enemy says, "Until today." And suddenly they just hear this giant wailing, like a wailing, and suddenly everything starts shaking. Everyone's covering their ears. It just seems to be heard throughout the entirety of Amity Park. And some glass shatters, and the tower that Valerie is on explodes. Valerie is able to save herself by calling her hoverboard. But when the tower is destroyed, the rest just start following. It's like a domino effect. When one goes out, the rest go out. So do the rest. and suddenly the whole thing just falls apart, and suddenly the ghost shield disappears, causing everyone to freak. It causes everyone in Amity Park to just freak out, run into bunkers, while the enemy says that you like my new power. I call it my ghostly wail. As such, Valerie realizes what's happening, so she tries running away, but she's intercepted by the Fright Knight in his only appearance in this entire episode. He apparently serves the ultimate enemy now. Even again, we never see him again after this. But Valerie manages to outrun him and get to Fenton Works, where her dad is. She managed to get in and tells her dad, "Hey, the Fright Knight's here," which means he can't be far behind. Not a second later, suddenly they hear the wail again, and the ground is suddenly shattered as the ultimate enemy comes in and ends up destroying the ghost portal. And now we are able to finally see who it is, and it turns out that the ultimate enemy is in fact Danny's future self. Only he's kind of changed in the last 10 years. Like, it's still identifiable as Danny. Like, he still has the black and white jumpsuit. He still has the black and white jumpsuit, and he has the DP still on his chest. But it's different. For starters, the shirt is no longer just solid black with white gloves. It's black. It's black main body with white sleeves and black gloves. He has a cape now, which the inside is black, the outside is white, and he's bulked up. So I'm gonna center myself here, and he's gotten a bit scarier now. His skin is now white. His ears are now pointy. He has fangs now. His eyes are red. And his hair, aside from a little goatee he has, is completely made of fire. What's even nice, too, is that he's got little ponytails. I don't even know how that works. But pretty much his hair is now just made of fire. It's not engulfed in fire. It's made of fire. And on top of that, he's voiced by Eric Roberts, and I just love that. But no sooner do we see this reveal that Danny just blasts Valerie and causes the whole building to... actually, we see it later, so never mind. Bottom line, I think he just blasts Valerie away. And after Danny does this, everything pauses. And it turns out all these events are being viewed by a ghost, as the previously mentioned Clockwork, a ghost that's supposed to be a master of time. As he lives in a clock tower full of all these clock gears and mechanics, he's able to view all events in time and he is able to look at all events in time and space. And part of his shtick is that he seems to phase between three types of age, between the three steps of man, as he sometimes turns into a young kid, an adult, and then an old man. But pretty much his present awareness never changing. And in the meantime, as he's seeing this, he's conversing with two other ghosts called observers. These ghosts whose heads are just nothing but a giant eyeball and long robes, who are showing this to Clockwork because they want him to take care of Danny before he becomes that. As such, in the present day, we see teenage Danny, the one we know. Sam along with Sam and Tucker are in the middle of a giant school thing. Are in the middle of a giant. Ah, dang it! I forgot the word. This is really worrying me. Bottom line, they're kind of in. They're having a school announcement as they're all in the theater. And Lancer's announcing that a test is going to be coming up called the Career Aptitude Test, or the CAT. Yes, CAT. Pretty much, it's a test that will, when you take it, it will determine how eligible you are to having a good future. It'll pretty much help you later in life, is what I'm saying. As Jazz, as two examples and he has two examples on there. As on one side of him, he has Jazz, who apparently scored the highest on the test ever, while on his left is another guy whose name I don't remember. Leonard, I think. I don't know. Bottom line, he scored the lowest on the CAT test, and as such, he's been working at the Nasty Burger, and now he's stuck working at the Nasty Burger. Though he does say that working at the Nasty Burger requires a lot more brains than it's required. Requires a lot more brains since the signature nasty sauce, if it's overheated, could cause an explosion that could take out a city block. We'll get back to that later. Bottom line, the stage is set. Lancer says that if you want a successful future or whatever, then you gotta pass this test, which it's kind of putting a lot of pressure on the kids, and Lancer seems to be kind of taking joy in this. And I don't think there was ever such a test that could define your future like that. I think it really depends on your own personal life decisions, but whatever. But whatever. Bottom line, Lancer says that this. Bottom line, Lancer says they only have this long to study. They only have this long to study, and he'll be keeping the test answers on him all the time in a briefcase he has handcuffed to his arm. I'm guessing it's over a month. I think he says it's gonna be in a month. I don't know. But bottom line, he said. But while he's talking about this, Clockwork and the observers are watching. And the observers are trying to urge Clockwork to take Danny out right then and there, but Clockwork says, I have something in mind. And so he fast forwards a bit to when Danny is studying for the test in his home. And so that's when he intervenes. As at the time, while Danny is studying, Jazz starts looking over his shoulder, trying to give him hints, but of course all it does is just get Danny angry, and helped by the fact that his parents have created a new ghost hunting device. A boomerang that Jack calls the Boomerang, which can apparently detect a ghost unique ectosignature and find them no matter where it's thrown. And because it's latched onto Danny's unique ectosignature, and it keeps being attracted to him, much to his parents' confusion because they're idiots. Bottom line, they leave. Danny gets fed up and throws his stuff on the floor when suddenly time freezes and Clockwork enters. Only now he's with another ghost, a little girl who also seems to be kind of in a trance before he gives her a little medallion with his initials on it. This girl, he informs the girl that she's 10 years in her past, meaning that she's from the future, and tells her that he wants her to fight Danny because he's part ghost. So she leaves her there and leaves, allowing time to go back to normal. And so Danny's ghost sense goes off, and he tries to get Jazz to leave. And Jazz at first is confused, but she sees the girl, and she decides to go, and she does leave. And she realizes what Danny's trying to do, so she immediately leaves. But so Danny sees the girl, her little girl, and goes ghost. And he asks her who she is, and she reveals that her name is Box Lunch, the daughter of Box Ghost and the Lunch Lady, which causes Danny to say ew. And I'm not gonna lie, Box Lunch is just amazing. She's like a great hammy combination of the Box Ghost. She is a great combination of both. She kind of has the same mood swings as the Lunch Lady, as she acts threatening and then suddenly acts all sweet, or sometimes mixes in together. She's got and of course she's got the Box Ghost's regular hamminess. She's just kind of weird. She's all over the place. She even at one point says, "Beware!" It's just kind of funny. It combines all the stupid but fun aspects of both characters into one little girl, which as such Danny immediately takes the fight. Oh, sorry, garbage man. Anyway, Danny immediately takes the fight outside, and the fight goes all the way to the Nasty Burger, where Lancer is having lunch. But, of course, and Box Lunch being able to control foods or just packaged foods or whatever. I'm guessing it's probably packaged food and fast food that she has control over, because the Lunch Lady can control meat. The Box Ghost controls anything packaged up. Bottom line, she's able to... The fight gets everyone in the Nasty Burger to run off, including all the employees, save for Third Degree Burns. The Third Degree Burns, whose name I don't remember, because I think it was only mentioned once in the entire episode. They all leave, and Danny remembers how the guy said that if the nasty sauce ever overheated, then it would explode. Which again, you're using this stuff. Which I'm just gonna talk about this right now. This is a sauce that you say if it overheats, it will explode and could probably take out a city block. And just to reiterate, it is being used for fast food. Why? We don't know. I have no idea. Why? Why is it being used for fast food? Is that just the passion of the guy who created Nasty Burger? Is that just what he's always wanted? To make a sauce that could be used for food? It doesn't matter if it explodes or not. P.S. man, you got a sauce that you can use to blow shit up. Weaponize it. Give it to the government. I'm sure they can use something like that. It's a little sauce packet. You can just probably put it in like a bottle, chuck it in with a heater, and boom! It's amazing. You should do that. Why aren't you doing that? I don't know why. They don't explain it. You should just weaponize that. And even if it wasn't weaponized, that stuff should be illegal. If overheating it causes it to go boom. Meaning, should it be served to regular people like that? Like, if I wanted to bring some home, do I have to be careful not to put it on my burger before I throw it in the microwave or something? Or else it'll explode? What if you made a burger too hot and then someone put it on? Would it go boom? I don't know. This is, again, why would you make something like this? I can understand trying to get it just right, but if you make a sauce that goes boom, it shouldn't be used for fast food burgers is all I'm saying. I don't know, I'm sorry. It's just a big thing. It doesn't make sense. But either way, Danny somehow takes the sauce takes a packet of the sauce and chucks it at Box Lunch and throws it in her little hat because she had a little cap. And he then shoots an ectoblast directly at it, causing it to overheat and explode, taking out a chunk of the nasty burger with it. Danny managed to survive, but in the explosion, he flies right through Lancer's briefcase, and then lands in front of Sam and Tucker. Everyone, including Lancer, runs off, leaving the three there, and Danny, of course, is wondering what was going on, because to his knowledge, the Box goes to the lunch lady don't have a kid, but he does find the medallion that Clockwork gave Box Lunch, though she's not present. As such, he goes to pick it up, but then finds that the CAT answers are now stuck to his back. It turns out that this is actually part of Clockwork's plan. He wanted to get Danny into a position where he would have the test answers, thinking he would make the right choice, and convince the observers that he's not going to become that dark future that they saw. But Danny immediately throws his hands in the air and says, "Hello, perfect future!" Which in turn kind of gets on Clockwork's ire. As such, he decides to shift gears a bit, and we get kind of a bit of flash, and we kind of get little snippets of what's to come in the episode as we see Danny fighting another ghost, him fighting his adult self, Sam and Tucker looking like they're about to be crushed by Fenton Works, and then we see all of Danny's friends and family tied to the, I guess, container for all the nasty sauce before it goes boom, which in turn kind of makes you wonder what the heck's going on. In the meantime, in the present day, Danny, Sam, and Tucker are talking about how Danny has the test answers, which Lancer overhears, and he goes to check and see if the test answers are there, and of course finds that they're not. As such, he immediately goes to Jazz and tells her that he thinks Danny has the answers, and Jazz doesn't want to believe that Danny has them, because she knows her brother, he thinks that he's that responsible, and even then she says, well, how could he get them? To which Lancer says, I don't know, or unless he gained the ability to turn invisible and walk through walls, which immediately causes Jazz to get nervous. But she still says that he has no proof that Danny did it. As such, Lancer decides to give her the benefit of the doubt, and says that, but tells her that if Danny doesn't return the test answers by the time the test is over, not only will he fail him, he'll pretty much just destroy his future. As such, Jazz still thinks the best of Danny, but in the meantime, Danny, Sam, and Tucker are trying to find out what's up with Clockwork's medallion, but they are not getting anywhere. It seems too high-tech, seems way too advanced, and while they're doing that, Danny's getting ready to look at the CAT answers, but before he can get a chance to look at them, Danny's ghost sense goes off again and another ghost appears. This one a bit more advanced and a bit more scary / threatening than Box Lunch. This is another fusion too. This one is called Skulk Tech 9.9, a fusion of Skulker and Techness. The body is new, completely brand new, but it's Skulker in the driver's seat, but his operating system is Techness. As such, it's very advanced, very powerful, and it's a lot more deadly than Skulker was. As such, Danny tries fighting off Skulk Tech, but unfortunately he can't. Unfortunately, they get the pair. He's too powerful, and he even almost destroys Danny. And I kind of want to mention this because I kind of want to do this because, again, Skulker's the one that's riding the body, but Technus is the operating system. He's got a little hole on in his stomach where Technus' face is, and so Technus can still talk to them. It's actually really nice. But before Skulk Tech can finish off Danny, his armor starts beeping, and they say someone's hacking into the system. It turns out, and immediately causing the rockets to go off, and it turns out the person who hacked into the system was Well, it was Tucker. It turns out Tucker was able to still successfully hack into the systems, which I think is really funny. And I know it's supposed to be the joke that he's got all this advanced weaponry. He's got the world's most he's got this technical ghost that can hack into machines' operating system, and yet he can still be hacked into by a PDA. It's amazing. As such, Danny goes after Skulk Tech, who manages to override Tucker's hack. And they activate something called the Phantom Palm Pummeler and immediately start blasting Danny with it, which in turn causes his powers to start shorting out. They then start making comments about how the Phantom they had a feeling that it worked on him here, that he's easier to deal with than the other Phantom that they fight. And of course, Danny has no idea what they're talking about, but they blast him enough times and he transforms back into his human form and falls to the ground, saving himself by a flagpole, which doesn't last long. As such, Skulk Tech gets ready to finish him off by latching him in a metal by getting him in a metal latch. But before he can kill him, Tucker once again hacks his systems and causes him to fall out of the sky and get knocked out. As such, Sam and Tucker try freeing Danny from him, but in the meantime, Skulk Tech ends up dropping another medallion, like with Box Lunch. And the instant it goes away, he starts vanishing. And since his clamp is on Danny and Sam and Tucker are holding on to Danny, all three of them end up going with him, and they find themselves back in Clockwork's domain, which they also show us in the Ghost Zone. So though Danny's a bit surprised that they've had, though this is obviously a sector of the Ghost Zone Danny hasn't been to yet. As such, they're confused as to what's going on, and they realize that it's somehow to do with the medallion, which I don't know if they saw him wearing it, but whatever. And Tucker immediately thinks that if they grab medallions themselves, they'll send them back. And there are a bunch of medallions hanging up. So Tucker immediately puts one on, but does nothing. But while they're looking around, Sam happens to find that little screen that Clockwork and the Observers were using, and they in turn see Danny's future self destroying everything. And from here on out, I'm going to call him Dark Danny. Like in the Ben 10,000 episode, I'm just going to call him Dark Danny to try and differentiate him from his past self. And on top of that, he is actually credited as Dark Danny in the credits. And I know other people call this guy Dan Phantom because he's supposed to be an adult version of Danny, but I'm sorry, but I'm going to call him Dark Danny because while he is Danny grown up, it's not technically like Danny, because he's Danny, but evil, corrupted, changed, not even fully human. We'll get into that later. But, so, it's technically like a dark version of Danny that we're seeing here. It may not be it may be an adult version of Danny, but it's not really the de facto adult version of Danny, so I'm not going to go into that. So, as such, I'm not going to go into that. So you can call him whatever you want, but for me, I'm going to call him Dark Danny, and that's what I'm going to refer to him as for the rest of this vlog. As such, as the group are watching Dark Danny destroying everything, they even see him using Ghostly Whale, which Danny actually kind of comments on. I actually do. They end up wondering what the heck's going on. They try to get Skulk Tech to try and get some information out. They try hacking more of Skulk Tech to try and find more information, but he's immediately sent back to the future. And it turns out the person that sent him back was Clockwork, who immediately tells them that he's been employed by the Observers to ensure that Danny never becomes Dark Danny. And of course, Danny thinks, well, I'm not going to be like that. To name one evil thing that I've done. As such, he shows him an image of Jazz finding out that he was finding the CAT answers in his bag, which causes her to break down a bit. And to further exemplify just how bad he is, they once again flash the future and find pretty much everything in Amity Park is now decimated. As such, Danny gets angry and doesn't want says, I don't have to explain myself to you, and gets into a fight with Clockwork, but Clockwork is clearly a superior fighter, as he has complete control over time, as every time as he can freeze Danny, rewind him, cause him to go everywhere, he pretty much just controls all the time, so it's obvious that in a fair fight, he's obviously the superior one here. Even freezing Danny in place to get ready to finish him off, though I'm guessing that was a ruse based on what we'll see later. But bottom line, he grabs a scythe and gets ready to finish him, but Tucker realizes that he's not being affected by what's going on, but Sam is, and he realizes that it's the medallion. As such, he grabs 2 more medallions and puts them on Sam and Danny, allowing them to no longer be affected by Clockwork's time manipulation. But Clockwork calls in all other variations of him that seem to be based on other periods of time, and says that you have nowhere left to run. But as such, and so Danny, realizing that they're cornered, says that the only place they can go is the future. So they fly right into the screen and find themselves in the decimated Amity Park. Of course, they're a little cautious because they just saw the decimation that Dark Danny was causing. But as they're going along, Valerie comes up and shoots Danny, thinking that he's his adult self. Of course. And based on what we'll see later, I think I know why they're doing this. But in the meantime, she does manage to subdue Danny by getting him in a net. However, before she can finish him off, Sam and Tucker step up to his defense, which causes Valerie to freak out because apparently they're dead in this place, which causes them to freak out. Sorry, just checking something anyway. As such, apparently she starts going over that the last time they were ever seen was 10 years ago around the CAT. And apparently there was an explosion at the Nasty Burger, and she immediately thinks it's Danny's fault before something blasts her aside, and the three finally meet Dark Danny, who, upon seeing the trio, he immediately freezes them in place with some weird ecto energy, or at least Sam and Tucker, and immediately wonders why the heck they're here before he sees the medallions that they're wearing and realizes that it's Clockwork that's doing this, which makes me realize that maybe Clockwork, he probably had an encounter with Clockwork at some point. I don't know. But before he can do anything else, Valerie steps in. As such, they get into a fight. As such, Dark Danny and Valerie get into a fight, but Dark Danny is clearly the superior fighter, and something I like about this fight scene is that over it they play a kind of more darker version of the Danny Phantom fight music, which I think kind of fits. But at the end of the battle, Dark Danny manages to overpower Valerie and tosses her through tries to toss her through a building, but Danny manages to get free from the net and save her. As such, he goes back to confront Dark Danny as he's talking to Sam and as he sees Sam and Tucker, and he says, if I were more human, this would be a very touching reunion. But of course, I sacrificed my human half a long time ago. Which again, yeah, this it also kind of adds another bit of twisted adds another twisted layer to him. That Dark Danny is no longer not part ghost, part human. He's a full ghost here. That some point between the present day and his present, between the present day and him and his time, something happened that caused him to lose his human half, which again, it makes you wonder what the heck happened to him to turn him this dark. But before we can get more answers, Danny shows up, and something I like is that Dark Danny still has his ghost sense, but instead of the cold breath we see Danny have, instead it's red wisps of smoke, of steam that come out of his nose, which I mainly like. As such, they both blast each other. Kind of knocking them both back. Which in turn allows Sam and Tucker to get free. Danny tells them to run, but Dark Danny, to ensure they can't get away, uses the ghostly wail again, causing Fenton Works to almost fall on the two and crush them. Danny tries to save them, but Dark Danny stops him, even throwing him into the rubble. But when Danny lands there, all he finds are Sam and Tucker's time medallions, realizing that they ditched them to make it out alive. So Danny thinks that maybe he took his off, he could go join them, but Dark Danny immediately grabs Danny and to stop ensure that he doesn't go back in time with them, he rips off Danny's medallion and phases it into Danny's stomach or chest or whatever, ensuring that he's pretty much just stuck in the future. And I can kind of understand this from a realistic point of view. Something they established with Dark Danny is that he is not stupid. He actually can be very smart. And he's smart enough to know that if his past heroic self is seeing all this, odds are it's gonna probably change odds are it's probably gonna change history. And he needs to ensure that if he wants history to go exactly as it's supposed to, he needs to ensure that everything goes exactly as it did before in his timeline. As such, in the present day, Sam and Tucker are back in the Nasty Burger, and both realize that they need to find some way to help Danny, and they are able to piece together that Danny cheating is the precursor that cut to Dark Danny. However, before they can meddle on this so long, Jazz comes up, and it turns out she has her own car, with a little bump sticker that says, "Have you hugged your inner child yet?" As she confronts them and tells them that she knows that Danny has the answers, and that she wants them to say something to him next time they see him. In the meantime, in the future, Danny wakes up now in his human form, but he's tied up with these weird rope with his weird ecto energy, and he finds himself in the rubble of the Nasty Burger. Whether this is the original or Nasty Burger 2, because when we were around Amity Park, we saw there was a Nasty Burger 2. He also finds 2 statues, one dedicated to his family and his friends, saying "Gone but not forgotten," and just another one that's of Mr. Lancer that says "Just gone," which I kind of wonder who put that up. Which dickhead put that up just who did that? Who? But he doesn't really have time to admire this as Dark Danny comes up and starts mocking him, telling him how all this could just ruin his entire life. And Danny tells him. And Dark Danny also elaborates that the medallion is now phased inside Danny and is now out of his reach, and is now out of his reach completely, whether he's ghost or human. As that she's pretty much just stuck in the future, and Dark Danny says that he has to get him out. That he needs to try and keep him out of his hair. Opens up a portal to the ghost zone and just throws Danny in. As such, we learn that Dark Danny kind of has a bit of shape-shifting prowess. As, like with how Danny transforms back into his human form, Dark Danny also transforms, complete with the rings and everything, only the human form he turns into is Danny as a 14-year-old, which just makes me think that Dark Danny has a bit of a shape-shifting ability now. Which would kind of maybe explain why Valor reacted the way she did when Danny appeared. Odds are Dark Danny pulled this same thing with her, she probably fell for it, and he probably did something. As such, the fact that he's able to assume his 14-year-old human form just shows that there is a bit of darkness there. It shows that he does probably have this ability, and odds are he could assume other forms maybe, but we don't know. All he really does is turn into Danny's human form, but whatever. Bottom line, he throws Danny into the ghost zone and takes a time medallion, odds are it's one of Sam or Tucker's, and uses it to send himself back to the past. How? We don't know. Maybe he fused it with his ecto energy. I don't know. Bottom line, using the medallion, he fills in for his past self, and he seems to know a bunch of stuff that no one else knows. This is something I didn't talk about before. Because it is important. Because after Danny had his fight with Box Lunch and half of the Nasty Burger was destroyed, we saw the container for the Nasty Sauce right next to an open heater or grill or whatever, and the grill was still turned on, and we see that as it's next to it, it's starting to heat up the Nasty Sauce. And just little by little, it keeps going up, turning up the heat. And so Dark Danny is fully aware of this, and apparently this is part of what happened. Apparently this is key to what happens later, and I'll get back to that when we actually learn what created Dark Danny, because we do learn that. But before he can meddle on this, Sam and Tucker appear, and they think, of course, that it's Danny, even giving him a hug. And Dark Danny fills into the part really quickly, changing his voice so that it sounds like his 14-year-old self's voice, and he tells them a lie and says that he was able to beat his adult self rather easily. To which Sam and Tucker say, well, then maybe we should find a way to make sure the Nasty Burger doesn't blow up, which makes me wonder how they even know about it since they didn't know about it before. And again, Dark Danny covers it up by saying that, oh, it's okay, I took care of it. And so he says, to kind of further distract them, he says that maybe they should just go out and play video games and rage against the machine, as he calls it. In the meantime, we also get a nice little cutaway with Clockwork, as apparently as the observers stop by to see him, asking him if he's accomplished the task, and he shows them Dark Danny in the present day, disguised as 14-year-old Danny, and says that, look, there he is, completely fine and normal, not evil. Now, could you please leave? Which actually kind of hints at something that's going on with Clockwork, because he's supposed to be a master of time here, so he should know that that's not Danny, which makes you wonder what's going on there. But in the meantime, we cut back to the ghost zone in the future, as Danny's still struggling against his bonds, even trying to go ghost to get out of it, but he can't. But as he's helpless and floating around, he runs into a few of his old adversaries, and we see more of how Dark Danny has kind of made everything worse in this timeline, as he runs into the future versions of Box Ghost, Ember McLean, and Johnny 13, and they're all looking a lot worse. For starters, Johnny 13 has traded up his motorcycle for a wheelchair, now completely paralyzed from the waist down. He still has his shadow, but he's not doing so well. Ember apparently got her vocal cords shattered when Dark Danny used his ghostly wail on her, resulting in her kind of, I think, filling up as she's now fatter, bigger, and all she really has now is her guitar. And to make it even worse, the box ghost is now threatening as he's got an eye patch. He's lost a hand. He's lost his hand in place of a hook. He's now buffer. He's got a tattoo, and he's actually legitimately terrifying. Like the box ghost catchphrase is "Beware" to try and make it sound scary. Here, it's actually legitimately threatening. As when he sees Danny, it's like, well. Here we were trying to figure out the best way to bring the fight to you, but now here you are, wrapped up like a present. And Danny says, "Box ghost?" And the box ghost says, "Beware." As suddenly he causes these box energy constructs to appear in his hand, and he blasts Danny. It's actually kind of scary, and just shows you how screwed up this future is. Just to see this comic relief villain, who even Danny and his friends think is not really much of a threat, suddenly turn into this terrifying and disturbing being, showing just how bad things are. As such, the three of them gang up on Danny and beat the crap out of him, while in the present day, Dark Danny goes to his old room and examines everything before Jazz comes in. She tries confronting him about the fact that she knows about the test, but Dark Danny, trying to ensure everything goes exactly as it is, immediately just kind of brushes her off. And so Jazz, kind of feeling disappointed in her brother, finally reveals to him that she knows about him being part ghost, saying that she's always covered for him because she's proud of him, but right now she does not feel proud of him and she's not going to cover for him anymore. And so Dark Danny, realizing that she knew, transforms back into his ghost form, causing Jazz to freak out and realize that he's not Danny. He then exposits that Danny is still trapped in the ghost zone 10 years in the future, and Jazz tries saying, well, he'll get out and he'll beat you, but he lists off all the various ways that he could get out, and he says, no, he can't. It's like, one, he can't get out, and listing off all the various ways that he can't stop him, like the ghost portal, like the Fenton ghost portal is destroyed. He plans on when he finds Vlad's ghost portal, he'll destroy him, even using the term cheesehead, which causes Jazz to immediately realize it's Vlad, saying that she can't do anything. So he immediately blasts her and knocks her out, and instead of tying her up or something, he just brings her back to her bed waiting for her to wake up. But he left her. By the time she wakes up, he's already gone off to school to take the C-18 and ensure everything goes the way it does. But Jazz, realizing what's going on, realizes she needs to contact Danny, and takes the boomerang, which is still key to Danny's ecto signature. And a nice little touch that I like is that Jazz realized the boomerang wasn't being attracted to Dark Danny because his ecto signature wasn't the same, which I think makes sense because he's a full ghost now. He's not part human, and I'm guessing Danny's ghost mixing with his human have created a very unique ecto signature. So the fact that he's now sans that plus some extra stuff we'll learn later, I think it makes sense that it wouldn't be the same. As such, Jazz writes a note to Danny, ties it to the boomerang with her headband, and throws it into the ghost zone. And so it just flies around the ghost zone for 10 years before detecting Danny as he's getting the crap beat out of him. And more ghosts have even joined in on the fight, including a future Kitty, who's actually who does look a bit older now. I love how the only thing how she fights Danny is just a purse. While Skulk Tech has joined in on the fight as well, but Danny keeps trying to convince him, look, I didn't do any of this. What? I'm not your enemy. But they're not going to listen to him because for them it doesn't really matter. He's still Danny. He's still Danny, and to them this is the guy that ruined their lives or afterlives or whatever. So they're going to destroy him. And so just as they're getting ready to prepare another attack, Danny just starts freaking out, says, get away, and he unleashes the ghostly wail himself, pretty much knocking everyone back and even freeing his bonds. But we get a small hint that something's up, that Danny can't have something with Danny, as when he uses it, he gets those rings that he usually has when he transforms, and it goes over him, but rather than turning him back into his human form, it causes his hair to turn black again and his eyes to turn blue, like in his human form. As such, Danny's able to transform back and get everything back to normal, but he's a little afraid. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Anyway, as such, however, as Danny's kind of moaning over this, the boomerang hits him, and he's able to read the note and realizes that the only way he can get out of here involves Vlad. As such, he goes to hunt down Vlad's portal, while in the present day, Dark Danny takes the test and cheats on him, even turning in the test. He even taking care of Jazz as she goes to try and fight him, even getting the Fenton ecto-peeler. But he knocks her out again and he clones himself. He duplicates himself because that's a power he has, and gets his duplicate to drag her off somewhere. I don't know where. We never see it, but he manages to finish the test, and Lancer, and of course Lancer makes good on his word as he calls Danny's parents and tells them that he wants to see them and Danny at the Nasty Burger later that night. In the meantime, Danny does manage to find Vlad's portal, which is hidden behind a giant football, and manages to find him, only it's not in his mansion anymore as he seems to be living out of a cave, and he seems to be a bit old, and of course as time has passed he's a lot older now, but he seems a bit more fragile, kind of broken. As such, when they see each other, Vlad actually does recognize that the guy in front of him is not Dark Danny, the Danny he knows. And he starts going on to explain what exactly happened. And I'm going to reveal everything here. I'm going to talk about all the details. Pretty much, in Dark Danny's past, when he cheated on the test, Lancer called Danny's parents to the Nasty Burger, and somehow Sam and Tucker were there. Because of the overheated nasty sauce, it went boom and pretty much killed everybody. The only person that made it out alive was Danny, and that was only thanks to his ghost powers, but after they all died, Danny kind of broke, so to speak, as he wound up, with no family or friends to turn to, he wound up going to live with Vlad, because he was the only person that could understand him, and it kind of makes sense, because again, Vlad is kind of the closest thing he would have to a family connection, even if he doesn't like him. Even in his kind of vulnerable state, odds are he would be turning to anyone right now. And of course, Vlad, always wanting Danny to be his son, accepted him, but unfortunately, Danny is still not feeling up to it. As such, Vlad, in an attempt to help him, wound up trying to treat him with a procedure. Now, whether Danny agreed to do this willingly, or if he knocked him out or something, or got him when he was asleep, we don't know. We don't know. Vlad says that Danny agreed to do this himself. That Vlad did this through Danny's wishes, though he could be lying. A bottom line, what Vlad was going to do is to try and free Danny of those feelings of grief. He was going to literally rip the ghost out of him. Kind of like what happened in Identity Crisis, only I'm guessing this one's more permanent. As instead of using the Fenton Ghost Catcher, he uses what they call these ghost gauntlets or ghost gloves. I'm guessing they're similar to the ghost gauntlets, but not the same. As they have these knives and needles in the fingers, which Vlad was able to use to actually rip Danny's ghost half right out from his body. Unfortunately, in doing this, Danny's ghost half, upon doing this, Danny's ghost half rather sporadically actually attacks Vlad, knocking him aside, and Vlad says that when he did this, apparently freed up Ghost Danny from his human emotions. So in doing this, Danny, not without the human emotions of attachment or grief, he knocked Vlad aside. And took up the gauntlets himself, putting them on and ripping Vlad apart from his ghost half. As such, for some reason, I don't know what caused him to do this, Danny then jumped into Vlad's ghost half, and it caused both ghost halves to fuse together, with Danny's ghost half being the dominant one, but with Vlad's Vlad's dark ghost half getting a hold in there, causing them both to kind of merge together in creating Dark Danny. And while they never actually, creating Dark Danny and the first thing, and pretty much killing Danny's human half, as the first thing Dark Danny did was destroy Vlad's mansion. And while they don't actually say that Dark Danny killed his human half, it's heavily implied, as we see a flashback of human Danny just cowering in the corner while Dark Danny stands over him, does this little scary face, and then and everything is blown up as Dark Danny flies away laughing maniacally. Pretty much just everything's just gone to crap, as Danny realizes what's going on. He asks, well, do you still have those gauntlets? And it turns out that what he wants to do is that if Vlad could use those to literally rip out Danny's human half, then maybe he could also use it to reach the medallion and get him out of there so he can go back to his time and fight Dark Danny. So Vlad also reveals that if the possibility that he could use them to just kill Danny now and stop all this. But in the meantime, in the present day, the Fentons go to see Mr. Lance outside the Nasty Burger as the chemicals explode, as the chemicals build up. And okay, hold on. Actually, you know what? I'll get into this when I'm done with my long summary. But I have to remember that. I want to remember this for later. But in the meantime, as they're talking about this, Sam and Tucker come out and say, no, you can't do this. The Nasty Burger is going to blow up, and we're 3 feet from it, which makes you wonder how they knew. Because from their knowledge, Danny apparently took care of it. Maybe they went back to check on it, but we didn't see it. I don't know. Of course, everyone's confused on what the heck they're saying. And then Jazz comes up, which still makes you wonder, what did Dark Danny do with her? Why did he take away the ghost peeler? Did he not see her have it? I don't know. Bottom line, she comes back. We don't know where she went. And she uses the Fenton ghost peeler on Dark Danny, pretty much revealing his ghost form to everybody. As such, immediately Jack and Maddie pull out their guns and demand to know what they did with what he's done with their son. To which Dark Danny responds with, "I am your son." To which he actually he just starts insulting them, saying, "Look at you guys! You two are the world's foremost ghost experts, and you can't even tell your own son is half ghost." Even talking about how the Danny Phantom and Danny Fenton names are sounding similar. Of course, they don't want to believe him, but before they can start shooting at him, Dark Danny ensnares them all in another one of those ghost ropes and latches them to the side of the nasty sauce container and even gags them. Jazz tries fighting him off, but he manages to overpower her and ties her to the side too. Before he can go boom, Danny flies in and starts fighting Dark Danny using some more tech like the ghost gloves / ghost gauntlets to fight off Danny, and even attaching the spectre deflector to him to cause him harm because he's a ghost. Well, another test that I like during the fight is that he knocks him into an oil tanker, and because Dark Danny's hair is made of fire, it causes the thing to just go boom. As such, Danny goes to try and free his family before he can get the chance. Dark Danny comes out, and just to show how powerful he is, he rips off the spectre deflector without even using the key. And he goes to fight Danny, and even Danny says, "Well, what are you going to do? Waste me? Then what happens to you?" And Dark Danny says, "You don't really get it. I'm still here. I'm still around, which means you're still going to turn into me." And so he starts fighting him, and even says that he doesn't really need to kill him. He just needs to keep him busy enough until everything goes boom. Though I still can make the argument that that Danny, even simply knowing about this dark future, means that he could still alter it. Like even if he does end up living with Vlad, all he has to realize is I just gotta be strong, keep fighting even through this tragedy, or at the very least just not go live with Vlad. It's pretty much, I think, Dark Danny's future is all but screwed anyway. But either way, Danny tries fighting Dark Danny, but Dark Danny is clearly too powerful and even beating him to a pulp and Dark Danny even tries chastising him, saying, "Well, what makes you think you could change my past?" And Danny says, "Because I promised my family." Dark Danny laughs at that, but Danny, out of anger, initiates another ghostly wail, which shocks Dark Danny because he thought, "No, that's not possible. I'm not supposed to get power until 10 years from now." But Danny says that his future is not set in stone, and he uses it again to knock Dark Danny into a building, but at the cost of shorting out his powers, which I'm guessing the reason Dark Danny doesn't suffer from that drawback when he uses the ghostly wail is because, one, he's 10 years older, so odds are he's built up a lot of power over the years, and to top it off, he's a full ghost, so he doesn't really have any powers to drain, much like how Skulk Tech's Palm Pummeler doesn't work on him because he's full ghost. But bottom line, while Danny is weakened also from using the ghostly wail, so was Dark Danny, so Danny's able to use the Fenton Thermos to pull him in, but unfortunately the nasty sauce container is still going to go boom. Danny goes to try and save everyone, but he can't go ghost right now because of the withdrawal, and as such, before he can do anything, it goes boom, seemingly killing everyone. However, as it's exploding, everything freezes and Clockwork appears and gives Danny another medallion, allowing him to free himself up. And when Danny's first confused by this, but Clockwork points to the explosion, it turns out that Clockwork saved everyone. And it turns out that this was all really Clockwork's big goal, in order to ensure that Dark Danny never became a thing, he needed to give Danny a chance to show his goodness and make the right choice, and kind of get him out of the way, he had Danny actually fight him. As such, this is all just part of his plan to try and ensure everything went off without a hitch. And so, to kind of further cement all this, he takes Danny back 2 hours. Though odds are Dark Danny should still be around here, but whatever. Maybe he replaced him. I don't know. Bottom line, he brings Danny back 2 hours into the past while he's still taking he's supposed to be taking the test. And so Danny makes the choice to give the answers to Mr. Lancer and tell him, "I'm not a cheater. I'm not a cheater. I'm sorry." And while Lancer does punish him by giving him attention, he gives Danny a chance to take a makeup quiz the next week. So as such, he tells Danny to leave, and Jazz sees this because again, Jazz is planning to assault Dark Danny then, and so Danny is now in front of the school where he and Jazz meet up. And so Danny reveals to her that he knows that she knows, because when she sent the boomerang to go get him, he recognized the note was in her handwriting attached with her headband. Danny knows that now his sister knows, so now they're working side by side. And after everything's set in stone, Danny goes to fight another ghost. His ghost powers are now renewed. In the meantime, it turns out that Clockwork kept the Fenton thermos with Dark Danny inside. Though Clockwork is perfectly willing to take charge of Danny if things go south, though the ending also hints that Dark Danny could return, though he never does because Dark Danny's actor died. Because Clockwork's actor died before they could make anything, so yeah. Yeah, that was a long summary. I think I pretty much just encompassed the entire episode's runtime with that summary. I'm sorry. But yeah, on the whole, what do I think of The Ultimate Enemy? I think it's okay, but flawed. I'm sorry. And I know a lot of people really like this and that it's very well remembered, but I think there's a lot of problems with this episode. For starters, continuity-wise. Something that Some Call Me Johnny talked about in his rant on Sonic 06 and its screwed up plot was how you could easily screw up a time travel plot if you have no idea what you're doing. And unfortunately, I think The Ultimate Enemy is one of those examples, as we get a lot of continuity errors with how it works. Like, how do Sam and Tucker know about the Nasty Burger blowing up? How did everything go the way it was? And I think the biggest thing of all, how did the Nasty Burger blow up originally? Like, we know it's going to blow up because Danny and Box Lunch fought each other. But did Dark Danny fight Box Lunch in his time? Or what caused it to blow up? Was it like a Final Destination thing that was always meant to happen, so something just happened to keep it in, something was put in motion so that they would die regardless? I don't know. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense if you try and stop and think about it. Like, what caused the Nasty Burger to blow up originally? Like, the only reason it blew up before was because Clockwork sent Box Lunch in the future, and that was only because of seeing Dark Danny. But if that's the case, then in Dark Danny's timeline that shouldn't have happened at all. The Clockwork shouldn't have intervened in this. Shouldn't have intervened with his life. It shouldn't have blown up. Maybe he probably still could have cheated or something. That could certainly be possible. Like he was put in another set of circumstances that caused him to get the answers either way. But the stuff with Box Lunch, that shouldn't have happened. That only happened because Clockwork was trying to set in motion to show out that Danny was still a nice guy and probably didn't have to become Dark Danny. That was because of Clockwork. Yet for this one, I'm just wondering, because this is a big plot point. How did the Nasty Burger blow up in Dark Danny's timeline? What caused it to go boom? Why were Sam and Tucker there? How did they know the Nasty Burger was going to go boom? They didn't see it. Danny didn't know about it. They didn't know about it. We as the audience knew about it by that time, but they didn't know about it. And even if they did know about it, by the time the climax hit, Dark Danny had assured them, oh, it's fine, everything's taken care of. And they bought that. So how the heck did they know? Did they go back to investigate? We don't know. It's never explained to us. Never. And it's kind of a big problem with that. And the episode's kind of full of some other dumb decisions, too. It's just kind of all these continuity errors that don't really make a lot of sense when you stop and think about it. It's like, for example, Dark Danny's big plan. Like, he's smart enough to know that if his past self sees this dark, twisted future, then he'll odds are try to prevent it from ever happening. So Dark Danny himself has to take charge and ensure that it does happen. But the way he does it's kind of confusing. Because in order for all this to occur, Danny has to be there at the crucial moment and follow the same steps. He has to be there when the Nasty Burger blows up, and then be so distraught that he'll go to live with Vlad, thus becoming Dark Danny. But that never happened. But if Danny isn't there, then he can't create Dark Danny. He needs to be able to see this. And the fact that by the time, and even when he does go back to that crucial moment, he knows about everything. He knows that when everything goes boom, he goes to live with Vlad, and that his grief and him wanting to get rid of that grief causes him to be separated from his ghost half, and for that ghost half to become Dark Danny. But even with this future knowledge in mind, he should still be able to prevent this. Even if his family does go boom and it does kind of break him, he should still know, well, then he should still know, no, I can't go to live with Vlad then. Or at the very least, don't get separated from my ghost half. Don't make that request. I can't let that happen, or else the world is screwed. He does not. So, bottom line, by seeing his future, by stepping in and changing things, by stepping in and preventing his past self from going back, he has fundamentally changed the future. They prove that? Danny is the ghostly whale 10 years before he was supposed to have the ghostly whale. By Dark Danny throwing him in and putting him in a situation where he got so scared and desperate, he caused Danny to get a power he wouldn't be able to get until 10 years later. And even then, he's not fully equipped to handle it, as every time he uses it, it starts shorting out his powers. That's supposed to be a big deal for this thing. So, the fact that Dark Danny in essence, Dark Danny's kind of screwed himself. Dark Danny kind of screws himself over. It's just kind of messed up. And even then, there's still some minor stuff that kind of gets in the way of that. Like, what did he do with Jazz? Why didn't he incapacitate her when he had the chance? And I know he can't kill her because he has to die when the Nasty Burger blows up, but at least find some way to incapacitate, at least keep her out of the way. Like, maybe throw her in a closet or something with a clone watching her, and then when the time is right, let her out so that she can run to the Nasty Burger. So I don't know, understand. I just keep her out of your hair for a while until the right time. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. It's just kind of confusing in that regard, and I'm sorry. But with the continuity errors aside, though, there is still a lot to like in this episode. As I mentioned before, Eric Roberts as Dark Danny is amazing. Eric Roberts, I think, does evil really well. He does well at kind of creating villains that are disturbing, evil, and loving every second of it. His version of the Master is my favorite incarnation of the character in Doctor Who, and Dark Danny does a great job at portraying as him being just cold, cruel, callous, and he doesn't give a damn what anyone else thinks about this. I think the best examples of him being evil are when he sees his past. You notice that with Dark Danny, he has some slight nostalgia for the present day, seeing the Nasty Burger, seeing his friends and family, his old room, his old face, even his sister. But only in him saying, "Oh, I remember this." But that's all it extends to. Dark Danny looks at his past and just thinks, "Oh yeah, I remember that. Well, time to blow it up." That's really the extent of his past. The point where when he holds no great emotional attachment to Sam and Tucker, who he tries to kill when they run away. He's willing to sacrifice Jazz to get her out of the way, though I do like the moment where she reveals that she knows about his ghost powers, as he's just super shocked, you knew? And the fact that he actually just mocks his parents before getting ready to kill them shows that he does not care. He just doesn't care about any of this. He's so twisted and thrown off his path that he is not even fundamental. That he and Danny are only the same in name alone. The only thing they have in common is their name and powers. And even then, the powers aren't completely the same. As Dark Danny has had 10 years of experience with his powers, and as such, he's stronger because of it. And it really does. It kind of becomes a big problem, and that really does kind of get to Dan, and that becomes a big thing. And that's another thing I like about this episode. Just the clash with Danny and Dark Danny. While the time travel stuff plot-wise gets confusing and messed up, something that really makes it work, what helps carry this episode is the confrontation between them. Because Dark Danny truly kind of is the ultimate enemy for Danny. For starters, he's had 10 years of experience he's had 10 whole years of experience over Danny. As such, he's had 10 years to master his powers, learn new abilities, pretty much get on a whole new level that Danny has never reached. And on top of that, because he is Danny's future self, he knows how Danny thinks. He knows how he operates. He knows about all of his moves, his skill set, and what he holds dear. He really is a match. He can very much be a match for Danny in every single sense of the word. And what makes it even worse, because he's twisted, he holds none of Danny's morals. He's more willing to throw things under the bus. He knows exactly what to do to hurt Danny in any way possible. And it kind of shows as he mocks Danny, he insults him, he belittles everything he cares about. He's willing to sacrifice his family and friends, things that were once precious to Dark Danny, just to ensure that his future happens. And it's actually really disturbing in that regard. And it actually kind of works for that. On top of that, it also works as the episode kind of helps work as a character piece. Like, again, while some things are confusing how they work structurally with the time travel plot, seeing Danny kind of being confronted with his darkest self, what he could become if he makes the wrong choices, actually kind of works as a wake-up call. As he's about to make a bad choice, but then seeing how far he could fall just from one simple little choice, he changes his entire he makes the right choice and ensures that his future stays the same, though it's revealed that Dark Danny is now outside of time, and this implies that he could easily just kill Danny now because he's no longer weighed down by the fact that this is his timeline anymore. But pretty much, this just ensures that, but just again, from a character standpoint, it's fine. I like seeing Danny being confronted by all this darkness, and it really is kind of a very serious episode. Like, there are still some jokes here and there, and there are still some jokes here and there, but it mostly focuses on the dark side of things. Like, seeing how bad the world has gotten with Dark Danny in the future. Seeing how twisted and what his enemies have become, and what lengths they went to try and stop him. And it's just really that's just kind of it. It's not with Dark Danny and all of his enemies. It's not an example of good versus evil anymore. It's evil versus worse, versus even more evil. As Dark Danny doesn't really seems to want to cause destruction. He doesn't care who he hurts or how. He just wants to kill things. And even seeing his old enemies, he still sees them as his enemies, or more specifically, he sees them as just play toys. Things that he can fight and break to test out his power. They're still his enemies, but he's not fighting them to help everyone. He's fighting them because he's got nothing better to do. And that's kind of a scary thought, and that's just kind of a nice thing, too. As such, while plot-wise, I think the episode has a lot of hiccups that kind of get on my nerves, character-wise, the Ultimate Enemy does work. Dark Danny as a villain is a good villain. Eric Roberts does a fantastic job portraying him. I love kind of how he can challenge Danny. I love how the character development we get because of that. Seeing Danny be confronted by his darkest self and have to learn to overcome it. It's actually really nice in that regard. It's actually kind of nice in that regard. It's just, and even then there's still some developments that even then it also kind of takes a step in development. Oh yeah, that's something I also forgot to mention. I also liked the reveal of Dark Danny's identity too, with the build-up and everything. And even in the beginning of the episode, they drop in a few hints here and there, like when Valerie and Dark Danny are talking, the way they're speaking to each other it kind of feels like the old conversation that Danny and Valerie have had before, though, or at least in Valerie's case. And even the fact that Dark Danny still calls the new power the ghostly wail, which even Danny calls it when he sees it in action, shows that it's still Danny there. Like, it is still Danny. Twisted, older and more powerful, but still Danny. So again, I kind of like that little touch. I kind of like that little touch in the hinting of his identity. But again, on the whole, plot-wise, it has some hiccups that it kind of get under my skin. But character-wise, I think it works. Also, yeah, the Fright Night never comes back again. He never comes back again in the episode. Don't really know what he served, but yeah, on the whole. And yeah, this is a very long vlog. This is the longest vlog I've done. I'm so sorry. So sorry. It's because I've seen this episode a lot when I saw this episode a lot as a kid, so I kind of have it down pat. So I kind of mentioned all these little details about it. But so apologize again for the long video. But yeah, on the whole, the Ultimate Enemy is an okay episode. Plot wise, it's got a few hiccups here and there. But character wise, I think it works with the development for Danny, the introduction of new characters like Clockwork, and even with Dark Danny and all the stuff and all the implications attached to that. So, yeah, on the whole, Ultimate Enemy is okay, if you ask me. Not great, not as great as I thought it was when I was a kid, but overall just an okay special. So, yeah. Again, this is a long vlog. I apologize. I hope not to do a vlog this long again. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm Sam Johnson, and next week Haley will return as we actually take a look at the series' Christmas episode. Admittedly, a few days after Christmas, but at least it's close. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and we'll see you next week for a hopefully shorter vlog. Bye.